Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of CLX Foundry Live, where we go inside a build and then assemble it from the ground up. I'm your host DJ BluePDX, and of course with me as always is our lead technical expert. It's Paul Steffens, and today's master builder Hayden Hutchinson. Guys, we've got some fun stuff happening today. We know that it launched a bit ago, last week, but we're going to be building our new giveaway. And it's got something awesome in it, which we have yet to be able to use, and now we can. So let's talk about it.
It does, yes. This is a great giveaway build for this month. We've got an i7 13700K, 32 gigs of DDR5, 5600 speed, I believe. I'll have to double check on that. I have my notes down wrong. Bad on me. DDR4 3600. We've got an Intel Arc A770 for our video card, so that's really exciting. This will be one of the first times we're really getting to touch those. So, yep. So yeah, I guess we'll start with the video or the motherboard. We'll give this to Hayden. I'll pull the case up here. Now this case is a Metallic Gear Cube. This is going to look a lot like a Leon Lee 011, but it is a different one.
Cool. It's a nice case. Got some great buttons on the front of it. The way that, I would say the flat metal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will say that button, the way the light's hitting it, looks like an Xbox button.
Yeah, it does.
All right. So first thing first, let's talk about obviously we know a little bit about the processor, the i7 13700K. It is an overclockable processor. How many cores does this thing have?
All right, so this thing has 16 cores and 24 threads, and those cores are broken into different categories. So we've got 8 performance cores, or P cores, and those have hyper-threading, so we'll get 16 threads out of those 8 P cores. And we also have 8 efficiency cores as well.
Nice. And of course, that's going to be popped into what Hayden's holding, and that is an ASUS TUF Gaming Z690 Plus Wi-Fi. Now, this is a DDR4 board, but it's got some pretty impressive features on it. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm really loving is all of the heat sinks, and it's got quite a few, including those on top of the I/O shield.
Yeah, so this is the ASUS TUF, which we've done, I believe, a few TUFs on the show. I really like the TUF. It's kind of their in-between, their mid-tier boards, and they're extremely high-end, like the Maximus and everything. So I think this is great bang for your buck here on this board. It obviously looks nice, really tall heat sinks here, built-in I/O. Yeah, I like the look of it too.
Necro asked, what's the difference between E-cores and P-cores?
All right, that's a good question. So E-cores are efficiency cores and P-cores are performance cores. So the idea behind the design is that when you're just browsing the web or doing stuff like not gaming, doing stuff with your PC that doesn't require a lot of processing power, it's going to use those efficiency cores more, and that will enable it to draw less power. So that's the idea behind that. And then when you're gaming, those P cores will ramp up and they'll boost up to what they need to. So that's the idea behind it.
And of course, being a K means it's also, this processor can be overclocked. Mm-hmm. So at that point, it would go from a 3.4 to what, or something?
So for an overclock on this, we would want to get it something past its boost clock, which is boost clock is 5.4, which is up there.
Oh,
so
got it.
When we're overclocking, you know, we definitely want to overclock it past the boost, because the boost is what you could get on, you know, stock, assuming you have the right cooling solution. So, you know, we would probably shoot for a base of like 5.6, 5.7, and, you know, maybe get it up to 6. Yeah, it just kind of depends on, you know, the silicon lottery, the thermal paste, and the cooling solution you have.
Nice. Mm-hmm. And don't forget, if you have questions about anything you're hearing or seeing on the show today, make sure you ask in the chat. We'll get to them as quickly as possible, and I will keep an eye on chat consistently to make sure that I don't miss any of your potentially amazing questions. So let's start off. What are some of the best features about this board?
So really what I like here is the built-in I/O and these M.2 heat shields. These are a little bit beefier than usual right here. They've got fins cut in them so air will flow through them, and really that's the biggest things I like about it.
I like that you can put two M.2s in the bottom.
Yeah, two there on this long slot that share the heat spreader. That is nice.
I do have a, well, let's see here. I have a question. Canadian Silent Bob has a question. It's not necessarily related to this build, but it is an interesting question. It says, well, they're trying to figure out if a Ryzen 9 7950X will be bottlenecked with a ROG Strix B550F.
So no, I don't think it will be bottleneck there. What you'd be kind of missing out on with going with the B550 as opposed to a the X is just going to be probably some overclocking options and stuff like that. If you're not planning on overclocking, I'd say that's a perfectly fine motherboard to go with.
Nice. All right, so obviously we've got the Tough Gaming labeled there. We're going to be putting in that processor. One thing to notice is that this is an RGB board, and that Southbridge heatsink is actually fanless.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot on our Intel chipsets of that Southbridge being fanless. Now, typically when we go over to AMD, really when X570 first came out, that's when we started to see the fans on the Southbridge for AMD.
Gotcha. Yeah, because we have seen some that actually come in with a fan.
Yeah, I believe now, I mean, all the AMD chipsets that are, you know, that higher chipset have the fan. I don't know if I've seen an Intel one, though. Have you, Hayden? No?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Now, right now, Hayden's putting on the, I guess it's the brace, the bracket, the mounting bracket for...
Yeah, he's putting on our mounting bracket for our AIO there.
Right now I'm screwing on the posts.
Oh, let's get it in there. That's going to be used to house, or at least to mount, the liquid cooler that we're doing with this. And we're going to be using a Phanteks Glacier One 240 AIO.
Yeah, so I've got that AIO right here. Get this. Let me get all the plastic off of it. We really like these Phanteks coolers here. You've probably seen us do a lot of 360s if you watched the show before. But they do come in a 240 option as well. Looks pretty standard. Really, the biggest difference between the 240 and the 360 is obviously the radiator length. But it still has the same pump, which I like. This pump is really good on here. And yeah.
Interesting. Obviously, you can see that it comes with its own thermal paste on the base of it. Yeah, the Phanteks are really great.
Yeah, when these
Glacier
first
ones have
came
all been
out,
interesting.
yeah, when they first came out, we really saw some good performance out of them. So we really like them here. I'm going to go ahead and give Hayden the processor here since he's got that bracket installed.
Hayden, can you walk us through the process of understanding when and which way you want to face it and how that all works?
Yeah, so they have a dot on the processor. We can get a shot of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it lined up here so you guys can see it. But yeah, there's a couple keys that will line up, and then there's also an arrow on the corner of the processor, and there'll be an arrow on the motherboard as well. Just give us a sec here. There we go. Now we're switching it over. We're trying out a new lens today, so bear with us.
Yeah. And welcome to our first time chatters. We got Jojo V in the house. I see Octo, and we got a bunch of names of regulars. We love seeing you all come back. Octo Marie's here. Contra has an interesting question up here. Let me scroll back up to it.
That is a good lens. There we go. So you can see the arrow here.
Look how clear that is.
Yeah, we really like this. So you can see this arrow. It's printed on the actual heat spreader up here, but then you can also see this tiny golden one here right by my finger on the corner. And so that's what you're looking for when you're going to line this up with your motherboard. There'll be another arrow that matches on your motherboard. So I'll give this to Hayden, and we can go back to the overhead and you can see it put in, or the side shot there. Both of these look really good.
Let's see here. So I've got a question coming in from Canadian Silent Bob. Personal question: what made you choose the Tough gaming board over a ROG Strix board in the current build?
Yeah, so the Tough gaming board, we're not going to be overclocking this, is probably the biggest practical reason for that. Those ROG boards they have extra capabilities on them that we don't necessarily need for this build, so that's why we went with this. And we like the Tough because just the overall aesthetic is going to match the case really well and still put out really good performance.
Canadian Jax asked, how about a 4... Oh, I get what you did there. Asked, how about a 420 size for a radiator? Yep. I don't think they make those. Is 360 generally the largest radiator you can get for
You can go 480.
AIOs?
Yeah, so for standard size, yes, you go 120, 240, 360 for 120 mil fans, but they do make AIOs that will fit 140 millimeter fans. So that would go from 140 to 280 to 320, 420. Maybe that is the 420. And then on top of that, there's also ones that are side by side that Hayden's done a plenty of in our open loop systems that are just, I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, especially if you use that Elite case.
Right, yeah.
One of the coolest things about this board, especially with the modern, I would say, placement for that bracket, is the pop-off cap.
Yeah,
they didn't used to have those, back in the day.
Yeah, so our proc cover there, yeah, some of them will actually sit under the cover, and I think that's really what we saw, on the older style motherboards. So you would lift the lid, take the cover off, and then put your processor in. But now, you just pop your processor in, and it'll pop off once it locks into place, which is kind of fun.
Nice. And to answer two turn tone 23. By the way, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Yes, we do build customers builds on the show. We don't have a way of actually selecting a specific customer, but as the orders come up, they pick and choose ones based on the uniqueness of the build. So we continue to have fresh formats and different configurations each time.
All right, so I'm going to give Hayden our M.2 drive here.
Awesome. So this is a 1 terabyte Samsung 980 Pro PCIe 4.0. And what's interesting is that this board comes with PCIe 5. So is that backwards compatible?
Yep, it is. So if we were putting in a slower slot, it would just obviously operate at that, whatever the slot could handle. But yes, it would work. There we go. Oh, this new lens is great. We're going to switch back over to... Bear with us for a minute here.
Canadian Jax, yes, Samsung does now make a 990 Pro. It's wicked fast. There we go.
Look at that thing.
Absolutely incredible. I don't know where Jason got that lens, but I thoroughly approve.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's great.
Now, as far as the inputs on this board, we've got quite a few on the back, but let's talk about that heatsink. Is there a heatsink over the top of that?
Right here on this part? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right there, yeah.
There's a cover plate that goes over it.
Nice.
So
I do like the fact that it's similarly vented all the way through, down a diagonal. It matches everything, but it's also a little bit of a different design than we've seen in the past from some other boards on the way that it is dispersing that heat.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with this, like most, once again, if you watch Sayushinos do it, you're taking the plastic off this thermal pad right here, and that's going to allow heat to flow from the M.2 to the heatsink nice and smoothly. So
nice.
We'll throw that back on there, and then I guess we'll install the AIO next, huh, Hayden? RAM next, and then AIO.
RAM, okay.
You're not scared of these RAM sticks in the way? No. I respect it.
All right, so the memory is going to be two 16 gig sticks of G.Skill DDR4 3200 RAM. That's a total of 32 gigs. That's quite hefty.
Yeah, that's plenty of RAM.
I do like that we are seeing that more commonly and more often, is that upgrade, that future-proofing your device and its needs.
Yeah, it is nice with the way new games are coming out at, you know, in a few years, 32 might be, you know, required.
Secret Nick 66, hi, welcome to the show. Says, hello, as someone new to PC building, is there any like general advice or maybe stuff to avoid while learning or building? We're actually going to go over a lot of that today. We do that every week. We always just come at this show assuming that there's people who may not understand some of the basics or may not quite get the lingo. And so there's me asking the questions because I'm simple. Apex, or no, Adapt Chucky. We have not given out any bonus codes, but it could be coming soon. You want to watch out. Ivory will be dropping those in chat. There's multiple places for you to win codes or for you to get codes here this month. We changed it up a little bit, by the way. Let's talk about that real fast. We did change the way the giveaway works just to kind of keep you on your toes and as well to make it a little bit more fun. So Ivory's got in Discord trivia that will be prizes will be distributed there. And there are some codes that have limited use and some codes that are everybody can use. But you want to make sure you're in our Discord at discord.gg/CLX Gaming. And when you're there, keep an eye out for the trivia questions. You never know. But it's always a great idea. The minute you see a code, grab it while you can, because we are making this a little bit more competitive this time. You can find codes on not only our social media like YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter at CLX Gaming. You can also get codes on my channel over at DJ BluePDX. Lots of stuff. All right. So with that being said, if you have questions about that, please feel free to drop them in here, drop them in the Discord. We'll get those answered as quick as possible. Now, back to the AIO. I noticed that you've taken off the thermal paste.
Yes.
That's right, yep. Yeah, Hayden's wiped that off. We're going to be putting our own thermal paste on there. This is Arctic Silver 5.
So better temps.
Yeah, give us some better temps. That way this processor can boost up more than it could without it.
So, for those of you who are new to building PCs, let's talk about the thermal paste, what it does, and obviously why you would put just a little dip on it.
Yeah, so what thermal paste does is allow for a good heat transfer between your processor and whatever's cooling it. In this case, it'll be our AIO, this copper plate you can see right here. So if we didn't put any thermal paste on this and just installed our AIO with none, the system would turn on and run, but it would definitely start to overheat. We'd see a lot of performance dips and potentially some shutdowns depending, you know, on our processor. So that's the first thing that thermal paste does. Now, when you get into thermal paste, there's a wide range of options to go from. So you can buy a higher end thermal paste, like especially if you're overclocking, you can use a really nice thermal paste to give you better heat transfer and better temps to get a higher overclock.
Gotcha. Perfect. Now, you did say something that I know we've covered before in other shows, but just in case we have people who aren't familiar with it, you keep saying AIO. What's that mean? Yeah,
so an AIO is an all-in-one liquid cooler, and that's what this is. So what I've got in my hand is the AIO. It's all-in-one. The coolant is already in the radiator. We won't have to add anything to it or top it off or, you know, bleed any air out or anything like that. And these have really come a long way since they came out. These will come with a bracket for each chipset. So you just make sure you install the right bracket for whatever chipset you're using. And then you put the plate on and plug it into the CPU fan or pump header, and you're good to go. Definitely recommend doing these. Even if it's your first time building, you definitely be able to install one of these.
Anybody who's good with cars obviously knows how that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, there are two different types of liquid cooling that you can put into a system. What is the difference?
Yeah, so the one we're doing and the most common one is the AIO or closed loop, which is what we have here. And like I mentioned before, that refers to we're not going to be opening up the radiator or any of the coolant system at all to be adding any coolant in. The other style is the open loop, which is the more fancier looking systems with custom tube bending. You can use soft tubes as well. And that's where you're putting radiators and distro plates and all sorts of fancy stuff in there, and then filling up the coolant yourself and bleeding the system that way. Those are great and provide excellent cooling, but they are a lot more work to go to. And yeah, we plan on getting one of those in the show.
Awesome. We did have a question back up here. I'm just trying to scroll up, make sure I didn't miss any. The question was, who's the fastest builder?
Hayden, for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
like we could have like there's some close seconds. Like we could have some competitions, but I've had rush orders brought out that it's like, oh man, this thing's got to go tomorrow, and to get into our 12-hour burn-in, it's got to be built today. So I'm like, Hayden, it's like 4 o'clock. Can you do this? And he's like, yep. And 20 minutes later, he's taking it into testing, and I'm just like, how did you do that? So
And to be fair, Hayden's being very patient and going very slow and letting us talk about the pieces, because I can already tell he's like, I want to be doing everything right at once, all at once.
Hayden's like, I could have had 10 AIOs installed in this time.
Well, we don't do that here.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and hook that up and walk us through the process of that, Hayden.
Okay, so you want to make sure, in this case, the Phanteks logo is on here, so you want to make sure that's like facing you, and then all you would do is line it up and make sure it goes onto your post. If it doesn't go onto your post, you're probably doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is I will thread one of the thumb screws lightly, and then go to the next diagonal corner, and then go all the way around, just so it gets on there evenly. And then
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I noticed you're putting consistent pressure on the top.
Yep, that just holds it down.
And does that also help with the making sure the thermal paste spreads evenly?
Yes. And now
Gotcha.
I'll screw down one side, and I'll go to the top corner. And once I have about 2 screwed down, I can let go. Should be good to go. And that's how
There
I
we go.
also.
Kind of like you're putting on a new tire or whatever. You do the star pattern.
Necro is a mechanic, so he's definitely loving all the vehicular references.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that this definitely needs is it's going to need power for the pump, and I never really thought about this until I, watched them do this. So that's going to plug into a specific spot on the motherboard.
Correct. Yeah.
So that it has power.
So this will look like a 4-pin female fan plug. That's what's coming out of the pump that Hayden's working on right now. And on the motherboard, there's should be a fan header that's labeled CPU fan. Nowadays, with AIOs being so common, sometimes they'll say pump or AIO.
Or water block.
Yeah. So, and we're wanting to make sure we plug it into that one. And the reason why is that's going to regulate voltage depending on temperatures. So it's going to cause your pump to spin up if it needs it, or slow down if it doesn't. You could plug this into a regular fan header and it would function, but it would just stay at one speed the whole time, no matter if you were idling or gaming.
Awesome. Canadian Silent Bob has a good question. It's, what are your thoughts on AIO installation? Flow going up or down to the cords on bottom of the radiator or the top of the radiator for better flow?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is you want these tubes coming out of your pump to be higher than the pump itself. And that's just for obvious reasons because of air. We don't want air to get into that pump. That can cause issues. So really, if we're putting on the top of the case like this or like this, not a real difference in performance between those. But if we were like, say we were putting it in the bottom of the case here, that's definitely what we would want to stay away from. Now it can function. We've had to do it in the past on some systems, and it's fine.
Even recommend.
Yeah, some cases recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it, but it will function. And really, what we're getting down to is making the pump last as long as we can. So if there's some air in here, it's going to float up to the pump, and that could cause issues, later down the road. I don't think you'd have like a catastrophic failure, or anything like that, but it might make your pump only last a couple years when it could have lasted, 5 to 6 years.
And Canadian Jack's followed up with that, asking negative, add to that, negative or positive air pressure inside the case. Because we talk about air pressure when we discuss where the fans are placed and how it comes in and out, but is there a preference or a reason to go with positive or negative pressure?
Yeah, so there's some arguments on both sides. I honestly prefer positive pressure. That's just getting more air in as opposed to negative pressure. But when it comes to your liquid cooler, whether you've got positive or negative pressure, you want to make sure that you're pushing air through the radiator if you can. You can mount the fans to the radiator on either side. So you could have it be pulling air through or pushing air through, or if you have the space, you could do a push-pull down on both sides. Now that's the ideal world. That doesn't always fit in most configurations. So you either just do one or the other. So we want to make sure we're pushing through, whether in a positive or a negative air, because that's going to cool the coolant the most.
Gotcha. Excellent. All right, so now we've got the AIO on. Well, what's next?
All right, so we'll mount the fans to the radiator. And something I'd like to point out too real quick, on our AIO, you can see how that pump looked before. Now these Glacier Ones come with this really nice infinity mirror here. And what's cool about this part is it's just magnetic. So this just pops on and has its own RGB connection. And that's that. It looks really good. This whole like black theme is looking really sick.
Oh, black builds can be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Kane Case, thank you for the sub with your Prime. Don't forget, you get a free sub with Amazon Prime, and you get to use it with whoever you want every single month. Now, while he's getting those fans on, I would like to point out, because it's more difficult once it gets in the case, the silver-rimmed holes, I call them silver-rimmed holes, but those are go to your standoffs.
Correct, yeah. So you can see if you're looking at, they're really easy to see from this shop. You should see 3 at the top, 3 in the middle, and 3 at the bottom there. And those are where our motherboard mounting screws are going to go. So once we get our motherboard into our case, it's going to be sitting on standoffs, which the purpose of those is to separate the motherboard from the case so you don't just have a sheet of metal with your motherboard sitting on it. So these are the mounting holes that those will sit on. The motherboard will sit on those standoffs, and the screw will go through the motherboard and into the standoffs to secure it there.
Is it... I would guess that you would need to make sure that you're matching your board with your case so that you have standoffs in the right spot?
Correct, yeah. So there is a form factor that you're looking for when looking at, like, will a motherboard fit in a case? So the most standard one is ATX, which is what this is. It's the normal size, mid-tower to full tower case fits that. And then going from there, there's EATX, which is the same height, but the EATX is extended ATX, so the motherboard is a little bit wider. So some ATX cases can't fit those. So if you have an EATX board, you want to make sure you have an EATX case. And then going to the smaller sizes, there's MATX, which is a bit smaller than ATX. And then you have ITX, which are the really, really tiny builds. Like, I think there's only 4 mounting screws for an ITX motherboard just because of the size of it. So
that's awesome.
Obviously,
I think George
you can
has
put
an
the
ITX.
Yeah, I think he does. He's got a pretty powerful small build, and that's what's kind of cool with the PC builds is even if you got an ITX system, that doesn't mean it's not powerful. Like there's a lot of cases you could throw a 4090 into an ITX system.
Yep, absolutely.
And the biggest thing to go from there is so obviously if we had an EATX case, a big case, we could fit any of those boards in. We would be able to mount an ITX board into an EATX case. It would just obviously look a little silly because in a config like that, your video card might be bigger than your motherboard.
Gotcha. Yep, I've had some friends do that on accident, and it did not work out well.
Yeah, if you're going with a bigger board than the case, and then you're trying to mod your case, yeah, it might not end well.
He noticed like the screws didn't line up, the IO shield didn't necessarily line up, and so they only had like two screws mounted to the whole motherboard.
Wow, yeah.
I thought that can't be good.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
Yeah. Imagine doing an EATX with an ITX. I don't think it would fit. I think it's actually bigger than the box.
Yeah. If you had an EATX board and an ITX case, that board is probably bigger than the case.
All right. So something interesting to note here. Let's start with the fact that this is a 2/3 design.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can notice, we see this a lot in the Leon Lees. It's a great concept. So the motherboard's going to be mounted not being fully against the back of the case. Now, this is a little bit of a different design than a Leon Lee. What stands out to you about this case that's different? And why would you be valuable to mount the board at that position?
Yeah, so the design of this case and the Leon Lee are very, very similar. When we first got these in, I was just like, oh, okay, these are more 11s, but no, these are Magnium gear, which I believe is another Phanteks brand.
Awesome.
So there is some slight differences. So the first difference that I'm seeing right here is the hard drive cage.
That's the biggest difference.
This looks to be the biggest difference.
Not here.
Okay, yeah, the hard drive mounts here.
Mount it on the back of the bracket.
We mount it on the
cables.
yeah. So this looks similar. If you've watched so before, our cable management cover that's going to go right here. This is where our hard drives are going to mount. Now the Leon Lees do allow you to mount them here, but we just don't because they have these nice bays in here.
Yeah. So this one, this case doesn't have a bay like that.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Let's talk about the number of ports that it's got on the front real quick.
Yeah, so we've got, similar to the Leon Lee, this is the smaller one. We've got 2 USB-A's here, I'm sure they're 3.0, and a Type-C. And we've got our headset/mic port right here. And then some fancy buttons for stuff.
Gotcha. Which is great because this board comes with, I believe, 7 front connectors.
Yeah, we'll have extra
for
open
ports.
connectors on the board for here, which is always nice to have.
The biggest difference is you can't put a back exhaust fan.
That's right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Interesting.
There's no
Oh,
room
look
for
at
it.
that.
So we would
Well,
have
it
a
was
3,
really,
3,
really
and
tiny.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gotcha.
Oh. Well, yeah, so we'll go ahead and lay this case down to mount our motherboard, and then you can see our standoffs in here that we were talking about earlier. We've got 3 up here at the top. They kind of blend in. When it's a black chassis, they do kind of blend in with the case, but you can see 3 up here, 3 in the middle, and 3 in the bottom.
All right, speaking of 3, 3, and 3, guess what? QUBE is the new code, and it is QUBE-FDYE. The first 100 people to enter it get... No? Oh, 100 entries. Oh, sorry, everyone. That is an everybody code, and it's 100 entries into the contest. Sorry, I completely messed that up. There we go. Yeah, once again, QUBE, Q-U-B-E, not C-U-B-E, QUBE-FDYE. Fire Department, Your Excellency. I don't know why I feel the need to constantly put words in places of the letters, but you got it. So there it is. Everybody in this chat just got 100 extra entries, which is great. I'm really digging the fact that the Trident, the way that the black and the white are, and you know it's got those color marks in there, but the hash marks are at an angle very similar to the ones on the heat sinks.
They are, yeah. This whole thing just looks solid.
And it also comes with those LEDs that are built onto the board. I do know the Tough Gaming heatsink on the South Bridge, though, you can see just above Hayden's hand, is going to light up. And, you know, I'm always fascinated by lighting up. Things that light up. Get you some. Yes, that is the code. GG. Crutch asks if that is the first unlimited code we dropped. That's a good question. It's a good question. All right. So as far as the IO on the back, this is a great shot, or that was a great shot for that. What kind of ports does this have? What are some of the differences?
Yeah, so you can see these here. We've got, looks like 6 Type A USBs broken down in different ways. Our blues are obviously our 3.0, and these are probably 3.1. I'd have to check the motherboard manual, but at least 3.0. And then these are going to be a little bit faster transfer speed than our blues, and that's why they have a different color. And then on top of that, you can see we've got 2 Type-Cs here. And then we've also got an HDMI display video out. We won't be using those since we have a video card in this situation. Then we've got all of our audio ports and our Wi-Fi antennas.
Gotcha. Now, I do know that there's 2 different types of Type-Cs on this board. There's the 3.1s and 3.2s.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the big difference between those types of Type-Cs?
So the biggest difference between those is going to be the transfer speeds that you're going to get plugging a device into it. For USBs, we have Type A, Type B, and Type C. Those are the 3 big families. So Type A is what everybody's used to seeing, the rectangle with the slot that you go to plug it in. It doesn't go in, you turn it around, still doesn't go in, and then you turn it back around, it goes back in. Type B, no one really ever sees. Those are usually for printers. I've seen them on one of my mics had it. It was like a Type B USB.
Ironically, most DJ equipment connects with, if you're doing
With
a laptop to the mixer, it's for some reason Type A is, or Type B is what's used. I don't know if it's because it's chunkier and it's a little more stable, but
yeah, I'm not sure why that is either. But yeah, it's probably something with that. And then you have Type C, which is the really small oval looking connector that it seems like everything's going to now. So,
well, it's got really fast transfer speeds and a high rate of doing so. So, speaking of fast transfer speeds, that Ethernet is a 2.5 gig Intel Ethernet port. So that's going to provide a lot of speed.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see the single Ethernet port boards starting to go to 2.5. Obviously, 1 was the standard, one gig. So getting it up to 2 is pretty solid. And I was actually talking with a buddy this weekend. He upgraded his internet, and he had an older computer, and he was wondering why he wasn't getting the internet speeds he was paying for. But it's because his old computer, the port couldn't handle it. So I was like, oh, that's like the first like real world situation I've heard of where, yeah, he would, he needs the 2.5. So it's pretty cool.
All right. So we got the board mounted, as you can see right there. Cables are already coming through those rubber grommets, which is awesome. I did notice there looked like there's a lot of cables that have a strap. Is there an additional Velcro system on the back to aid in cable management?
Yep, there is. So like this being a Phanteks brand, like the Evolve X's that we've gone over before that have those nice Velcro straps, this does have that as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so what's next?
AIO.
So we are going to be mounting the AIO next. Hayden's going to run his 2 fan wires. You'll see him coming out of the back right here at this shot. He's going to pull those through decently tight, and then he'll raise the radiator up to the top, which is where we're going to be mounting the AIO here.
Got it. Oh, great shot right there. Now, I have a question with regards to the mounting of it. There seems to be a wide grate on top. Is there a specific side that it needs to be mounted on, or do you just want to get it farther out in front of the motherboard so it's a little bit, there's no risk of it touching?
So for this, it does have some adjustment slots on the top where if you had like a radiator that would fit a 140 fan, that's what those are there for. But on the side that's closest to us, there's only one. So we have to mount it at least on this one, and that will decide which slot we use for this cooler. So we are using the closest one. They do design this to default it, so that is, no matter what, it's the furthest away from the motherboard.
Gotcha. And of course, the fans that we're going to be using in this case, there are 9 Gamdias Aeolus M2 ARGB fans, and they're black based, but both the rim and the blades light up.
Yeah, these are great fans. If you've been watching the show, you've definitely seen us use these. They look great. They have great performance. I really like that they're controlled with a remote. So you can just set whatever color you want, or if you want it to cycle through colors, they have all sorts of ways they'll go. So even if you have it on RGB, it'll like change a color, ring around, and like chase each other with the lights. Like there's a lot of stuff you can do with these fans.
I do know the promo pictures we took of the system were incredible because it was all in purple. Or it looked like it was black lights, and I thought it was amazing.
Hayden actually just did an open loop system with some UV lights. We got like UV fittings for the open loop.
Some blacklight light strips.
So it was pretty cool.
What?
Yeah, it was a tough build, honestly, because it also had RGB strips. So we had RGB strips in it, and then also adding UV light strips.
I had to find a way to route everything that I wouldn't dispute that blacklight.
Yeah, that was a challenge we hadn't come across before.
Awesome. I had no idea you could. I mean, it makes sense, but
yeah, I didn't know it was a thing until we got the order for it. We're all like, what are these UV lights? Like, what's this? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, UV fittings, UV fluid, and then the UV lights really make it pop. Yeah. So.
And Nicole says, yes, we want to see them all in purple. So we're excited about that one. So is the UV? How is it an LED? Was it an LED or?
Yeah, so it looked just.
UV and LED.
It looked like an LED.
Yeah, it
like
looked
a
just
strip.
like a light strip that you've seen us install here before.
And it's powered by USB.
It was a little different too because a lot of times the LED strips will plug into a box, which will then get powered by either USB or SATA. This one actually plugged in USB, like a USB thumb drive, not to a motherboard. So we actually had to like do some really good custom work and modify the case and get a hole. So we had the cable coming out of the case and into the back.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well done though.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
definitely
really
a custom system for sure.
We're very excited to be able to, hopefully soon, we're going to be doing an open loop system on the show. We're just waiting for the right one and figuring out the logistics of it because it's not an easy process.
Yeah, there's a lot of
of
effort that goes into it. Hayden does a great job here. We've got a couple guys that do really good. Christian from the show's beginning, he does those. Hayden does those. We've got Jose doing them now too. So
Radical Tire. I said tire. It's Radical Tray. I don't know where tire came from, and I apologize. Asks, would the UV have any chance of degrading any plastics in the case, like motherboard, tubing, etc.?
no, so not these ones. The UV was honestly it was pretty low, and that's where the biggest challenge came in. It wasn't like this real bright UV light. So we tested out that light strip all around the case, and we got it in a situation where it would really shine onto the fittings and the fluid, with the rest of the case being RGB.
Yeah. Awesome.
Fans?
Okay.
Wanna go to fans next?
More fans. So while he's getting that set up, I do notice the grate on the bottom. Can we take a look at that filtration? How is that going to work with this case?
Yeah, so similar to the 011s, this is going to slide out right here. So this is our dust filter here. This one just has a nice tray it fits in. So when you're cleaning your case, this is what you'll slide out and wipe down. Our intake is going to be on the bottom here, so this is where we're going to collect most of our dust and everything. I'm not too concerned about it blowing out the top, with that being the exhaust.
Yeah. One of the cool things about this case also, it has 4 feet to lift it off the ground, so you've got that airflow, you've got that room for clean air. If you're going to be putting this somewhere, our best suggestion is to not put it on the floor, because you don't want to, especially if it's carpet, you don't want to risk any type of static electric discharge if you're on carpet. But if people have to put it on carpet, say your office is carpeted, what are some great ways to avoid placing it directly on the carpet?
Yeah, so my system at home is in my basement, which does have carpet. So what I've done is cut out a rectangle of cardboard, and that's just a little bit larger than the case. And I just put that on the floor and then put my case on top of it. If you got any wood, any tiles, anything that's hard that you can put on the carpet first and then put your case in, that'll allow your case to push whatever is under it down to compress the carpet and still leave you, you know, the nice inch or two gap that you need to get fresh air in.
Yeah. Now, this brings me back a little bit to the positive negative pressure piece that was asked earlier. Can you walk us through the direction? So obviously we've got air flowing out of the top. It's coming in the bottom. Those 3 fans, however, looks like they're going to be blowing into the case?
Yeah. Yeah, so these 3 fans here are going to be our intake. We're also going to have 3 intakes on the bottom, and we'll be exhausting out the top. Now, the way you can tell their intake is you can see this fan grill here. Some people might refer to this as the ugly side of the fan, but this is what's going to tell you which way the air is flowing. Back in the day, they used to print arrows on the fans, so they'd show you fan rotation and direction that the air was going. But really, once you know that the fan grill is where the air is coming out, it's pretty easy to tell. So, like if our fans were this way, we had this fan here, this fan would actually be bringing air in this side and pushing it out the back. But since we've got it turned around like that, that's how we know it's going to be intake.
Gotcha. Cool. So that's definitely going to create a positive pressure inside the case. And you've got that open grill in the back that'll help with exhausting any of the extra heat or extra air. Correct,
yeah. So while there's not a fan here on the back, that's why this is perforated and cut into. This is still going to allow air, you know, hot air to come out. And they've actually got it extended this whole side of the case here. So yeah, this whole part here will be exhausting air as well.
Perfect. Excellent. This board also, as you can see, the 2 antenna right there does come with Wi-Fi 6E, which is available. There we go. And I believe it also has, I'm scrolling through all the things on this. I believe it's also Bluetooth enabled.
Yep, this board should have
Bluetooth
Bluetooth as well.
5.2.
Nowadays, it's almost like if it's got Wi-Fi, it's got Bluetooth. It's been so long since I've seen one that just had one or the other.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Now, obviously, cable management at this point is going to be very important. What are some things to keep in mind when you're running the cable management for your fans?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that if it's these, you can see it. If it's these 3 fans together, you want to make sure these cables stay together. So when they get to the back of the case and they're zip tied already, that they're obviously, like I said, if they're together, they're going to be a lot easier to find and a lot easier to manage. If I didn't do that, it would be kind of hard to tell which one's which, and then you would have all your stuff out of order.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we like to do is have like making essentially these 3 fan cables into one cable coming out the top, and then we can easily see which one's 1, 2, and 3, and do that the same all around. So kind of making us go from having 9 individual cables to 3 cables that just have 3 different outputs.
Gotcha. In the process, I do want to give a shout out to the 3 companies that have joined us in this giveaway, and that is Phanteks. Thank you so much for the case. Intel Gaming for the incredible graphics card we're going to be talking about in just a few moments. And of course, the peripherals are provided by Logitech G, which is great because this comes with a G5. This package will be a G535 wireless headset, a G70 large cloth mouse pad, which I have one of these. A G512 carbon light sync RGB mechanical keyboard, which is great. And of course, the G502X gaming mouse. That is what I have here. That is for some reason.
That looks cool. That is pretty cool, actually. It's like see-through. Yeah.
Am I back?
We're trying to get DJ back. But no, I have the 502 as well. I love the 502.
So yeah, I used the 903 for I want to say 7 or 8 years. This mouse lasted, and my my original 502, which I have now sitting over there, it was just when Logitech sent me an upgrade, and there it is. But it's a lot of fun. Godly coming in hot with that Prime sub. Let's go. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Don't know what that noise was. Let's see here. So as we're looking at those cables in the back, I see there's quite a few of them. What are some of the, yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm trying to blow my nose.
Paul, are you feeling stuffy?
Yeah, I don't know if it's allergies or what. I feel fine, but man, I woke up with the worst congestion today. And then it'll like randomly clear up. I'll be like, oh wow, I can breathe through both nostrils. This is great. And then it's just like, oh, I need to stick a plunger to my nose. I don't know. Garlic? Yes, shove some garlic up there. Yeah. I'll go pretty crazy with the Vaseline. I'll be putting like whole chunks in there. You know, put it on my chest. Sometimes I'll taste a little bit of it. My grandma told me that that's what you should do when you have a cold is you eat some Vaseline. And I'm like, I don't know if that's what you should do. She grew up on a farm in Iowa, so they got some rough, tough, you know, solutions there. But I'm like, I don't know if eating Vaseline is going to make you feel any better. You know,
our flowers are starting to come up, even in spite of the fact that we had all that snow, 2 weeks ago. But it's finally things are coming up out of the ground. It's like, all right, well, I guess we didn't kill everything. No problem. Fight Nicole's like, I do not agree with that statement, Paul.
Yeah, I'm not endorsing eating Vaseline. I didn't do it.
Next time you're sick,
I'll
get
put some on my
some
chest. I'll
Vaseline.
put some in my nose. But yeah, eating it. It's a whole nother ball game.
Someone needs to try
Yep.
it.
If that's what it takes to feel better, maybe I'm not ready.
Very excellent point. Excellent point. Okay, so as we're getting this over, we're going to let Hayden do his thing, and Paul and I are going to talk about the new kid on the block. So everybody knows that, you know, normally when we talk about graphics cards, we've talked about NVIDIA and we've talked about Radeon. But Intel came in, and I've had a chance to play on these Intel Arc cards. These are wild. Back at I want to say it was PAX West, we got the chance to go in and actually film inside of the Intel Arc. I would say it's a giant truck trailer, but the whole thing expands out. It's a massive gaming space. It was soundproofed, which was amazing considering you're inside of a convention. You couldn't hear anything happening outside, but these were so quiet. They were so quiet. They weren't hot. It was it's an impressive feat of accomplishments right there. So this is the Arc A770. This is a 16 gig graphic card.
Yeah, this is the first A770 that I have opened. Ooh, let's play. Let's do play. I've seen, I forget what the other ones are that I've done. I've done a few, and then when I was at a DreamHack, they had a booth for the Arc cards as well, and they had some gaming sims running on it and stuff. Very cool. We're all very excited to see Intel come into, you know, the GPU market. It's always nice to have another player in the industry. And I like their goal with these cards, or at least what I feel like their goal is, and it's kind of hitting that mid-tier range in the 3060 category, and I really like that they're not just kind of coming out the gates with like, we're gonna beat the 4090 with some crazy card or something like that. I like that. Like this is available for most gamers, most people. Yeah. So I really like that. This is a really clean design on this card. See this backplate here? There's obviously RGB that's going to be around this ring. So.
Right. That's gonna look awesome.
It looks like we have an 8-pin and a 6-pin. That's really interesting. I haven't seen a 6-pin on a video card in a long time. Either way, I like that this is going to come directly from the power supply, and it's not some different dongle that we'll need to plug our power supply into and then that into the video card. So I really like this. And the weight and size of this card is perfect. So almost it has like a matte finish right here, which I like too.
Yeah. It looks great. I do have a question because the way that this is designed, you don't actually get to see the PCB.
Right, yeah, it is all encased here. Now, I know I have watched some people pop these off, and I think the idea is you pop this panel off, you know, with a little flat screwdriver, something small like that, and then you can get into some screws. But yeah, there is no PCB, even from the side. I mean, you can only see it from here, the clip.
Yep. Which again, like you mentioned, this is a very clean design. It looks sleek, it's low profile, and I know that when we were playing in the truck, I put my hand straight on top of the device. There were these little tiny, it was attached to a Nook, and it was no heat.
Yeah.
It was bonkers. I absolutely was so impressed. I was playing a game and got killed multiple times. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we were, I think it was Zach and Christian were with us at the Dallas DreamHack, and we were doing a racing sim, and so we all, none of us won. I think we all got last place, but it was fun to play.
That's awesome. All right, so as far as this this card goes, it's got 32 cores in it. So it's a 32 core card, 2100 megahertz for the speed. For anybody who's wants to know anything about that. And it comes in two different models. So it does come in an 8 gig version, and it comes in a 16 gig version. This is obviously the 16 gig version of it. And then of course there's the A750, which is just one little step down below. It's 28 cores. That's a 2050 megahertz, and it only comes in an 8 gig version. But gosh, that looks so clean.
It really does. I like kind of going back to the simplicity of it. This is obviously will match the aesthetic of this build very well with the subtle RGB.
So, although they are different designs, well, see, that's the thing. We don't know exactly how they're designed, but I'm assuming that the cooling method is similar to other graphics cards.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure it is.
So for those of you who've never seen it, let's show them what it looks like. What, you know, when graphics cards are taken apart, because it's definitely important.
Yeah, so I've got a sample card here. This is our EVGA 1050 Ti educational tool that we use on the show.
Yes.
And this is actually the closest, comparing it to this Intel card, this is the closest that we've come to them being about the same size. This Intel card is obviously a little bit longer, but about the same width. So what I've done is I've unscrewed these fans and heat spreaders on this card here, and we'll go ahead and pop those off and show you what a GPU looks like under all of this. So we'll do this. It's got a fan connector that you'll unplug to power the fans, obviously, on the cooler. But this is all that's under there. Now, like we talked about before, the PCB might be a little bit wider, but this is all it's gonna be, this thin PCB here. This is your video card. So where you can see the thermal paste, that's your GPU. And then for this design, we've got our memory chips around here. So this is a 4 gig card, so that tells us these memory chips are all 1 gig. One memory chip could be 2 gigs, could be 4, you know, depending on how they do it. But this is what your GPU is. So everything else that you see on a video card that isn't the PCB in this is just to deal with the heat that it produces.
It's wild.
It really
is. So
is.
wild. And I'm super excited because this is our first giveaway with an Arc card in it, which whoever gets this is going to have a very, very unique experience with this. And Necro, the Arc cards are available now in the configurator on the website. Zion the Lion, hello, welcome. And we got PlayStation Loco here, Esmerg. Hi. So many familiar names. I love the fact that you all come back.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody.
Yes. And of course, speaking of seeing everybody, in just about 2 weeks, you're going to have a chance. If you're going to Boston for PAX East, you'll be able to see us there. We're bringing the crew, and we've got some great stuff we'll be doing there with the Intel booth. Paul's even going to be doing an assembly, I believe, with Robitech. So lots
Super
of
excited. It'll be my first PAX East, so really excited. Come say hi.
Yeah, I've got to take you to all the PAX parties.
Yes, yes. We got to find a lobster roll too.
Oh yeah,
I want to
absolutely.
find that.
So yeah, if anybody's going to be going to the Boston show, let us know. Come by, say hi if you see us. You know, just look for lights shining off of my bald head.
I didn't, Nicole. I didn't. I've only been to DreamHacks and maybe a QuakeCon. I think there might have been a different one I went to, but been to a ton of DreamHacks. But yeah, never a PAX.
Ivory does bring up a very good point. Yes, the Arc is only available on the Set, Scarab, and Horus presently, to my understanding, and Hathor. Yep, and of course the Hathor is another brilliant design. It is a PC inside of a PC, thanks to our friends over at Intel. They had an idea, and George was like, "Yeah, we can do that."
Yeah, I need to
not?
get me a Hathor at home. That'd be nice.
Yeah, they are wicked machines. So, and if you have not had a chance to take a look at our building of a Hathor system, you should take a peek on YouTube. We've got that Hathor build out, and it was a little bit longer because, you know, we've got many different parts, but it was impressive. So have you seen a lot of those come through?
Yeah, we have been getting more orders than we expected for those, honestly. Like, we got to the point where it was like we had to start training more builders on those systems specifically, because when it launched, it was just like they were just coming in. So very, very cool to see.
That's great. Canadian Jacks with a gifted sub to find Nicole here. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Gift sub. Hype. Yeah. The only real limitation is liquid cooling. Everything else is available to my knowledge. Good point.
All right, so Hayden's got a bunch of the cables ready now, so we're gonna go ahead and start getting this power supply out of the box and going from there.
Let's take a look at that. That is a 1,000 watt Phanteks amp series 80 plus gold. So definitely higher than the bronze.
Yeah. And this is a black version of this. Now, we've really only seen white of these Phanteks on here. I'll let you get those plastics off. So this is the first time that me and Hayden have both seen this black one, which which is nice, goes with the build well. And this is a fully modular design, 80 plus gold, like you mentioned.
So you say fully modular. Let's talk about the difference between the designs of most power supplies.
Yeah, so fully modular means that no cables come pre-soldered into this power supply. Now you have fully modular, semi-modular, and then non-modular. So fully modular is this, where this is your power supply, this brick right here. You've got these ports where you can plug in the cables that you need. Semi-modular would mean some of the cables are soldered in and then the others are all modular. So typically when you see those, it's going to be a 24-pin, an 8-pin CPU, and usually 1 or 2 video card connectors. And they do that because if you're building a PC, you're going to need a 24-pin and an 8-pin. And most likely a video card. And then you have non-modular, which all of the cables are pre-soldered in, they're all coming out, and you'll just plug in what you need and then bundle and tie up the rest and put them somewhere that makes sense in the case. So we always recommend going with fully modular if you can. Now, if you're going, you know, it is an area of a build where you can save some money on. So you can still get, you know, the same specs with a non-modular. So if you need to save some money, this is an area where you can and not lose out on performance.
And yes, the camera did fall asleep.
Yeah, it was
snapping. It's its first. It's the new lens. Here we go. To jump back over to the card, the graphics card, you mentioned that it's kind of lightweight.
Yeah, it is. It's I mean,
interesting.
It's if you went to pick this up, it's heavier than you think it would be, but even with that, it's still pretty lightweight.
So, do you think that it will need a anti-sag device?
This one will not. No, with the size of this and it not being super long, it will not need an anti-sag device. And I just noticed something in here too. We've got like RGB rings around these fans as well.
It lights up all blue.
That is all blue. Nice.
What?
I guess that makes sense. Of course, it's going to be blue.
I mean, I'm sure you can set it to whatever.
Yeah.
But by default, I'm pretty sure.
By default, it's blue. I would expect that. Maybe it's not RGB. I don't know. We'll find out though. There has to be, right? There's no way it doesn't. But yeah.
We say that, but then it doesn't turn on.
Right. Everybody's talking about the removal of the plastic, and it is definitely a fun process.
Yeah. He's just used to it now. It's like muscle memory going through the motions.
Yeah. All right. And, you know, to touch on that power supply, I know that I have in my current gaming PC, it has a non-modular power supply. And it's interesting because it's designed so it's got that, I would say, that rectangular space underneath
Yeah.
where everything gets shoved. And when I opened it up, the first thing that I noticed was there were an absurd amount of cables just shoved in there.
Yeah.
It's like, what didn't get used gets shoved underneath, which can that negatively affect the airflow and cooling capabilities?
Yeah, it can. So that's the biggest practical reason to go with a fully modular is those cables in there are obviously, you know, if you put your hand in front of a fan, it's going to block the airflow. So that's having those extra cables will restrict some airflow. And that's why if you do have a non-modular, you want to tuck those cables as neatly as you can.
Gotcha.
But then sometimes too, if you're not, you know, if you had a really high-end system that you're going to use all those cables, then, you know, it's a little bit better. But like on this build, I mean, you can see, is this everything we're going to be using, Hayden, what you got plugged in here? So Hayden's plugged in the cables that we need. So you can see there's still room for 4 more sets of cables to bundle in on this build. So if this was a non-modular power supply, it would have those 4 sets of cables, 4 extra of these, you know, coming through that we would have to manage. So
awesome.
There's also more room for more SATAs.
Yeah, room for more SATAs, all that stuff.
Nice. Now, one other thing, speaking of SATAs, we have one other element that we haven't really talked about when it comes to storage. We did talk about the 1 terabyte Samsung 980 Pro, but that's not the only memory we're putting in there. We've also got a 4 terabyte Western Digital Blue mechanical drive that is going to be installed for putting your games on, working with video files, audio files, depending on what you're going to be using this machine for. And I say you because one of you will be winning this.
This lens is awesome. So yeah, like you said, we've got this Western Digital 4 terabyte storage drive here. So this will be getting installed on the back of our cable management panel.
Nice. Oh, we got a new code, and this is where the chase begins, people. CUBE CBSV. Like the channel, CBS Viacom. First 50 people to claim it get 100 additional entries. So you better jump on it.
So first
once
50
again, it is
there.
Yep. It is exclamation give cube QUBE to get the link if you don't already have it. Is that a Lord of the Rings reference? So let's see. I'm excited to see. We've got 73 people in here, and only 50 are going to get it, which is great. Octomarie got it. Nice. Necro is Wolf Queen. Yeah.
Nice,
Everybody.
nice.
Contra, Canadian, Silent Bob. I love it. All right. So now we're working on the cable management for this portion. And I kind of want to take a moment to talk about, while we're doing this, I want to talk about the website a little bit because there's so many options for this. And we'll do that in just a second. I can see Jason's behind there. Yep.
There we go.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's a great lit. That's a very lit shot.
Like
I do
Hayden
like
on
the
a
way that
weekend. Very lit.
I do like the fact that you've got those rubber grommets. It makes it just look cleaner. It doesn't. There's not a lot of holes that are just looking for cables to shove through. So. Okay, so let's take a second. I want to talk to everybody about the website. At clxgaming.com, we make it as easy as possible to get everything you need to step up your game in just the right way. Whether it's your motherboard or your processor, you get to pick and choose and build it in a way that meets your needs. And don't worry, you don't have to be a professional in order to get this done correctly. In the event that you happen to select two items that aren't necessarily compatible, the little green button up top is going to change from add to cart to resolve conflict, and you won't be able to purchase the device with something that doesn't fit. If you click it, it'll give you drop downs and options showing you, okay, this is what would solve the problem, or this would solve the problem. And so in this case, we're looking at a motherboard and a case. So once you resolve those conflicts, everything gets then put together. And if you're not really wanting to build your own machine, maybe you're just not comfortable choosing your pieces, don't worry. We have hundreds of pre-built items ready to ship that are all available on the site. From sets to scarabs, Horuses, you name it, it's awesome. So take a second, look at the website, build out your dream machine, and see what happens. It's there. For all of your computer needs, head on over to clxgaming.com. Now, I do want to bring up one thing that we haven't talked about yet, and that is what happens to this machine once it's done. So if you are putting it together in the configurator and you click purchase and you buy it, once it's assembled, Paul, what happens to it?
All right, so any computer that we build here, whether it be this giveaway machine, your customer order, anything for a show, once it gets done built, it goes into our testing and integration department. And the first thing we do there is get into the BIOS of the machine, make sure the BIOS is obviously up to date. We check your RAM speeds, make sure those are showing up correctly, and we get those set correctly. We'll make sure our storage drives are showing up. So if you've got an M.2 or a 2.5 inch or a 3.5 inch, we'll make sure all those show up. And then sometimes there's some other settings we have to do depending on if it's Windows 11, Home or Pro or 10, or obviously we're going more to 11 now. And then after that, we'll load the operating system, any games the customer has picked or anything that we'd want to put on the system. And then after that, we do a 12-hour stress test or a burn-in. To do that, we have a few benchmarking software. So the main one that we use is 3D Mark, but we also use FurMark Prime 95. And we run that for 12 hours, and that allows us to really catch any defects if we got a component bad from the manufacturer. Most likely we're gonna catch it in that 12-hour burn-in. And so that allows us to catch it here, fix it, and make sure that the customer gets a stable system.
Zombie Rain asked an interesting question. How would you load an OS on a build without an optical drive?
That's a great question. So, you know, when I first started here, everything was still optical drive. So we had the Windows disks. If we want to do motherboard drivers, we had to use the motherboard driver disk, all that stuff. But now we have a network. So we built a network that has all that, and so it's over via Ethernet. So we use KVMs and racks. So we plug a bunch of computers into one KVM, which is keyboard, video, mouse, and then we can cycle through those, and they're all connected to our network, and that's how we do that.
Which is a really cool setup if you ever get a chance to look at it.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. It's you can build a really fast network so that it goes really quickly, get everything loaded. And another way you can do it too is with a thumb drive. If you're wanting to do that, you can download the ISO file from Windows website, put it on a thumb drive, and do it that way.
I have a Windows 10 that I won at I want to say PAX West 2015, 16, way back then, and I laughed because it was this tiny little USB drive, and I got it from Major Nelson. I won it for asking a question in a panel.
That's awesome.
But you're gonna need a CD drive to load up your AOL trial. Yes.
Man,
they do make them in USB form.
I still use, I don't know if I've told this story, I think once before on the show, but I had an AOL account, and that's what my original World of Warcraft account was, Vanilla WoW. And then I fell out of WoW, was getting back into it, and was like, oh, my WoW account got hacked. Okay, cool, well, I just need to get to my AOL. Well, my AOL account got hacked because I never used it. So I was contacting AOL to try to get my account back, and they were like, yeah, sure, we just need to, text the phone number associated with it. I'm like, well, that was my landline phone from forever ago. And so since that phone number obviously couldn't get a text message, I never got my original WoW account back.
What?
Very sad. Yep.
Wow.
I don't even know how many hours played of Classic WoW. From Classic WoW through Lich King, all of it was gone.
Oh man,
feels bad.
That's unfortunate.
Yep.
Hayden, real quick, what you doing there?
I am putting the hard drive in the slot that goes on the back of the bracket. So I had to put some special screws in.
That's cool that it mounts that way. I thought it was going to mount directly to the plate.
Yeah, it's mounted in the air, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. And what's good with that is
better airflow?
Yep, exactly. It's going to allow air to flow through both sides of it and just cool it even better. Now, obviously, your hard drive shouldn't be getting that hot, but, it's definitely better than it just mounted to a plate.
Yeah, absolutely. In need of temperance, like, that's an actual hard drive. Oh, my gosh. Yes. And a 4 terabyte one at that. So...
Yeah, the combo with getting a really fast main drive, 500 gig or a 1 terabyte for your OS drive, and then maybe a game or two that you want to play, combined with a larger storage drive, is a really good way to be economical about your build. I mean, if you look up the price difference between a 4 terabyte mechanical drive to like a 4 terabyte Samsung drive, I mean, I don't even know what it is, but I'm sure it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, they are. Again, we've talked about this before, but I'm always intrigued by the evolution of storage memory, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah, who knows what we'll be talking about next year,
I laugh because I remember having a cell phone that was just had very little memory, and then you get these cell phones that have got over, got 500 gigs in them, a terabyte.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a card now, a micro SD card that's a terabyte.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
That's so wild. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and install this Arc card right now. Once again, I just really like the size of this card, just for the ease of install. It's not something over the top, crazy, worried about it fitting in the case. It's just nice.
Look at that. Yep. That is going to look great, especially with that strip lighting up.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's cool. This is a cool case.
It is. It is. We're starting to see more of these. Like I said, they're very similar to the O11s. Like, I didn't really even... I just assumed it was an O11 when we got our first shipment in of them. But, yeah, it's cool to have them. We really like Phanteks, and so it's great to have some more stuff from them.
Now I noticed there's a back plate on that is in place, but it looks like it can be popped out. What would that be for?
Yeah, so this back here, I believe, is so that you can do an ITX build in the back of the case.
You can put a board
What?
sandwiched.
Mm-hmm. So you could do, so why this rectangle cutout is here, that's the shape of your IO shield right here. So you take out this screw and then you can see 2 slot covers, for a smaller video card or something.
You could put
so
2
it actually
systems
sit.
in one.
Yep, you could do 2 systems in this.
And guess what? If you get the Nook, you can have 3.
There you go. Yeah, you're right. Do the Nook have 3.
Don't know why you would need 3.
For reasons.
It sounds like it sounds like a challenge. It sounds like a significant challenge.
All right, someone buy it.
Yep.
Now we got the card in there. Obviously, it comes with 1 HDMI and 3 display ports. What's the big difference between HDMI and DisplayPort?
So the big difference for that stands out to me is so I have a 144 hertz monitor at home. I think you do too, DJ, maybe a little bit higher actually. But to get that, you have to use DisplayPort rather than HDMI. Now I'm sure there's a lot of different technical specifications, between those, but DisplayPort is the better of the two. I'm sure, 5 years from now, everything's going to be DisplayPort. Your business machine that you're working on in an office will be DisplayPort as well.
Cool. One thing to note here, if you guys notice the little black cartridges that look like that are on the back of that, those are the lighting control centers.
Yeah, these are our fan boxes here. I'll get my arm out of the way so you can see that. And so each one of these can have 8 fans. Oh, perfect shot. So you can see that's actually 2 boxes that we've put together here because these boxes can only take 8 fans. This is a 9-fan build, so we can daisy chain those boxes together, have 8 fans on one, and then the 9th on another, and they'll all work together with the same remote.
Awesome, even better. All right, what's next on the agenda?
I'm going to just finish tying up the little bundle, put the back panel on, plug in our hard drive, and then we can turn it on.
That's it. Yeah, we're right the way there.
So for anybody who's new to the show, we have this show is 2 parts. We've got our main show here that we go through when we're going to build it, and then we'll take a little bit of a break, get the next set of builds ready, and then you're going to have an afternoon with Hayden while he builds and answers questions. And when we say fast, you're going to get to see exactly how quickly he can do this. And to be fair, it's impressive.
I'm still going slow.
It is, yeah. Hayden's going at his cruising speed when he's building on the show. I don't know. You'll see me bust in the door with a rush order. Hayden, get this one done.
The first time Hayden was on the show, I couldn't get the information out fast enough before he had everything assembled, and it was in the motherboard was in the case, and I'm over here still talking about the RAM and the heat sinks. Like, how did you do that so quickly? What?
Practice makes you perfect.
And then, of course, this will be sitting in the back of the studio for everybody to see, which is great. And again, you have till the end of the month, which is 31, to the end of the 31st, to get your entries in. Make sure you're here on the shows Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. That's 2 Eastern. We do this show twice a week, and there are two different post-build shows. One with Hayden, and then one with Zach. So, Aeropunk, hi, how are you? And we got Black Biscuit with that Prime sub, awesome. Aeropunk, yes, we're building the giveaway system right now.
All right, so the hard drive's been plugged in. All the SATA cables have been ran. We're ready to throw on panels and see if this thing turns on.
Awesome, sounds like a plan, man.
I'm gonna go ahead and clean this off, Hayden, if you don't mind grabbing those side panels. We can start with that.
I'm not as long.
One of the things I noticed.
Oh, your leash isn't as long? Yeah, my leash is long. I can get over here, sorry. There you go. All right.
Awesome. Yeah, it does. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, the fun part is going to be when we light this up and make it straight up purple.
Yeah.
Purple and blue. That's going to be incredible. All right, so as far as the side panel also has good ventilation on it. You can see it is perforated, so, which is nice. Yeah, Nicole's like, purple. I need all the purple.
Oh, purple.
One thing.
We gotta make it purple.
Oh, now that's different. So you've got a top slot over that rim.
Yeah, so over that one there is that. It's the O11 Dynamic, I believe, has that as well, but I don't think the XL does. And we do a lot more of the XLs on the show than we do Dynamics.
Fight Zombie Rain says you got to keep Hayden on a short leash so he doesn't run off to build in the wild.
Yeah. We'll give Hayden the next show. We'll give Hayden the side build to do while we're talking. He can just build another one and be like, "Look at these two I got done."
That's fine.
That'd be funny.
There you go.
All right, I think.
We'll say give them props for that because that came off a lot easier than some other
Phanteks.
people's plastics.
This is...
All right. Walk us through what your oh, there you go.
Let's see here.
we
You
go.
got the remote over here, Hayden.
What's up?
You got the remote over here. Do I have it?
I do not.
I have it over here.
find that.
It was right here.
Right, the sound of the peeling is I don't know why that's always fun, but it just is.
It is.
All right, get that top one on there. Again, also well ventilated. So
It's still a little.
this is going to be incredible. So talk us through what's happening. Is it
Trying to put...
We're putting our
And-
top panel back on.
I think it's this one.
I think it's that one.
Yeah.
yeah, we can see where that front corner is just a little bit higher.
Let's see. What if we do this one first?
Almost there. Yes, golly, absolutely.
That's it. There we are.
Once
Okay. Now we're good.
got it. Nice. Or you get the power cord in there.
All right. How's this look, Jason? Good. All right. We'll get this thing plugged in and flipped on.
The moment of truth. Let's take a look. Go for it.
Okay. So we can definitely see some RGBs there
Yep.
on the motherboard. So we know the motherboard's getting power.
Found it.
Power button. Oh, man.
Oh, that does need to be hooked up.
Oops.
No, it's hooked up. It's just crooked.
Oh, okay.
Getting this off is...
It's stuck.
We'll get this figured out, people. It's stuck?
No, it's fine.
Okay, I was like, wait, what? It is very pretty. Uh-oh. So what's happening?
So it seems like the top panel is sticking to something. But I am not sure what.
Do you think it might be held in place by the glass panels? No, glass panels
Should
went in
be
first.
Covering them, yeah. We might be able to.
Hensu's over here like, get a hammer.
We could. The fixer of all things. I don't know. What do you think, Hayden?
I have no clue.
Feels like it's right back here.
All right. Is it possible to reach inside and push it?
Let's see.
Maybe it's not meant to ever come off again.
It's like, this is how we're doing it.
Yep. Necro says electrical tape and some WD-40 should fix it. I always go with duct tape myself, but that's just me.
Let's do this. Let's set it down.
We're going to take this onto the floor for a hot second. Yeah, the 100-mile-an-hour tape. While they're doing that, huge shout out and thank you to everybody for all the companies that are helping us with these builds. And that includes Intel Gaming, Logitech G, and Phanteks. Phanteks with the case, Logitech G with an incredible peripherals package, and of course Intel Gaming providing that Arc card and the processor for this build. And don't forget, you're going to be getting four different peripherals. You've got the G535 wireless headset, the G70 large cloth mouse pad, and a G512 carbon light sync RGB mechanical keyboard, along with one of these bad boys, and this is a G502 gaming mouse. These things are awesome, right? Invisible case, well, it's called active camo.
Yeah, it is.
It's got the active camo on. A quick dance break. I know, get up and DJ.
There we go. It was this right side here. So this has some adjustment screws, and I bet these might have been a little too tight.
Gotcha.
So I'll show you here. So these screws are what locks in, and I think these are just down a little bit too much. Miss Hayden, if you want to bring that back up here and check that power button.
Everything's good to go now.
It's good to go?
Should be.
I'm just going to loosen these in case we have to take this off again.
Absolutely.
That was kind of nuts. It's getting nervous.
That's a first time for that.
Please stand by while we get the hammer. Good?
Yeah.
So that was the issue then.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the issue with
Got
the
it.
panel, yeah.
And then of course we fixed our power. What was causing the power button not to function?
Power switch was on crooked. It was like fairly off.
Gotcha. Okay.
Should be good.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. Once again, and this is why. Listen, this is why we do this. Are you ready? Let's go.
Maybe not.
Or not. Well, it's definitely getting power. You can see the lights on it.
One more time.
You want to hit
Miss
it
Pow,
with the
hi. That is an
screwdriver?
Intel Arc A770 graphics card. They're brand new on the market. Absolutely incredible. There it is. Look at that light setup. You've got the infinity mirror on top of the AIO cooler. We're gonna get that thing flipped to purple. That top back on. There we go. Nice. Just look at that Arc card. The way that it lights up, it's got that uplighting built into it. Absolutely gorgeous. And while they get those colors going, let's once again cover everything that's in this. What?
I'm trying to not change the studio lights while we do this.
Oh.
So bear with me.
Oh, there we go. While he's doing that, let's go ahead and cover one more time what's going in this giveaway build that one of you may win at the end of the month. This PC has an Intel Core i7-13700K processor that is mounted on an ASUS TUF Gaming Z690 Plus Wi-Fi D4 motherboard. It's got 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 RAM from G-Skill, and of course an Intel Arc A770 graphics card, and that's a 16 gig version of it. The operating system will be loaded on a 1TB Samsung 980 Pro PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD and it has an additional 4 terabytes on a Western Digital Blue hard drive that's now in the back. It's cooled by a Phanteks Glacier One 240 AIO liquid cooler, and it has a 1000 watt Phanteks Amp Series 80 Plus Gold power supply, along with 9 Gamdias Aeolus M2 RGB fans. Yeah, it is absolutely a gorgeous build. Look at that. It's just wicked. Absolutely loving it. So the winner at the end of the month will get this PC along with those all those peripherals, and we're really excited to see and hear about the performance and how the winner enjoys it. But
yeah, this would be an awesome build to win.
Oh, our card is sick.
Yeah, I really like
I'm excited to see how the art card performs. I'm excited to hear, like, on Thursday's show for us to talk about the burn-in process and the performance of it, because you're going to be able to see that today.
Yep. We'll get this thing going. Probably have it running overnight, and yeah, we'll have it back up in here in the studio where we usually put Swoosh. We'll probably have it right behind us, so you guys can see it for the rest of the month.
That'll be awesome. All right, so you can join us every Tuesday and Thursday live right here on the show at CLX Gaming TV, starting at 11 a.m. That's 2 Eastern, where we continue to jump inside customer builds and assemble them from the ground up. We'll also be giving out codes here as well as on our socials, and make sure you follow the socials so you know what's happening. That's CLX Gaming at YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. You want to join the CLX community? Head on over to our Discord, discord.gg/CLX Gaming. And so you can you'll get codes either on social media. Check out the Discord, because Ivory's got trivia, and it's trivia for codes. And then I've got codes for my channel over at DJ BluePDX. So with that being said, we're about to take a break. When we come back, it is going to be Hayden jumping through and speed rushing everything that he can so he can finally get that out of his system. He's been slowed down the show. So on behalf of Kyle and Jason in production, along with Paul and Hayden, I'm DJ BluePDX. Thanks for watching, and don't go away. We've got more coming up after the break. We'll be right back.
Thanks, everyone.